the Dred Scott decision that we all know so well was based on one thing. Dred Scott did not have the legal right to be protected by the United States Constitution. And I'm bringing this up because I know there's groups out there that are saying, well, we really got to overturn Roe v. Wade. We really got to re-elect a pro-life Congress, get us a pro-life president, and then we can do it. And y'all know something, we've been down that road already.
Come on. Come on, tell it.
We've been there. Man, we had a Congress that really should have gotten this thing done. Had a president, and he made a couple of right decisions, but nitty-gritty. All those years, and we still right here.
Come on.
I am so glad that the abolitionists didn't say, well, you know what, we need to overturn the Dred Scott decision. Let me tell y'all a big secret. There was no Supreme Court decision that jumped up and overturned Dred Scott.
That's right.
That is not what freed slaves. Dred Scott never got overturned, and look at me, I'm free today.
Glory to God.
Amen. This is key for pro-lifers to understand. Because there are certain things you can do regardless whether Roe v. Wade gets overturned or not. We can still end abortion. It can still end. And this personhood movement, this is one of them. This thing, it can succeed. It can work.
Yes, it can.
Now, and keep in mind, I met Ben Cox. And a lot of you don't have a clue of who in the world Reverend Ben Cox is. He is the fellow that came up with the idea of civil rights marches. I met the gentleman in his old age. And boy, he was a rowdy guy. I mean, that man was mean. But he explained to me why they did the civil rights marches. He explained to me, he said, you know, Dr. King, they were good speakers and they were doing all this and everything. And he said the civil rights movement wasn't going nowhere. He said the problem was, and this is how he talked, he said Negroes and colored people, they were scared. He said you couldn't get them to do nothing. Only a bunch of folks, only just a few of them, and they were called radicals.
That's right, we sure were.
He said, so I told Dr. King what we needed to do. He said, I prayed, he said, God gave me the idea we needed to do some marches. He said, and so we would announce, we're coming to a little town. He said, nowadays you watch the thing. He said, but none of the earlier marches are on film, nowhere. He says there's not a copy of any of them. He said, because we would announce, we're coming to such and such a town, and they named the little town and all, and we're coming there, and they said, well, why are you coming to our town? Everything's all right in our town. He said, this is what Negroes was telling us. And I said, yeah, but you can't even drink out the same water fountain. You should have a right to drink out of the water fountain. You should be able to go to any store you want to. You should be able to sit at any counter. Your money is just as good as anybody else's money. You should be able to, and he said, and we get to that town, everybody, why they come down town? They just stirred up trouble. He said, and we get to the town, and only me and King march down the street. He said, but I tell you what, the town was never the same afterwards. Because after a while, a few of them start thinking, well, maybe we ought to be able to drink out the same water fountain as others. Maybe we should be able to vote any kind of, maybe our money is just, they start thinking. He said, and every now and then, maybe one pastor would join them, so there'd be 3 people marching down. He said, but it was never, ever about the marches. It was about the message that was preceding the marches. That you are an individual, you're equal. You're endowed by your God with certain inalienable rights, the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's what the civil rights movement was based on. And now those marches, they kept those marches going, and finally some other pastors joined. The next thing they know, they got bigger, they got better, and they made the impact. But it was never, Reverend Ben Cox drove this home to me. He said it was never, ever the thing, he said, was never the intention of a march was just to march. It was everything we did before the march, which changed the hearts and the minds and got people thinking. And even when partial birth abortion was introduced, there was people that said, no, we shouldn't be introducing that because it don't do nothing. And I tell you, I don't believe the partial birth abortion ban saved one child. But I tell you what it did start doing, it started people thinking. It started educating people. So a lot of times when you start something, don't think that you just got to win it just right away. You have to get people to start thinking. It was people that started thinking. See, the civil rights movement didn't start with Martin Luther King. The civil rights movement started back there with people like Harriet Tubman.
Come on, tell it.
Sojourner Truth.
Yeah.
Even John Brown and I'm serious. They had people there. Harriet Tubman, she decided ain't gonna be no, you can have as much slavery as you want. I'm getting them off.
Come on. That's right.
If you ever want to watch another movie, watch a movie called Amistad. They don't quite do the movie right.
I watched it last night.
You did?
Yes, I did, honestly.
And when you watch it, you'll see John Quincy Adams. You'll see those legislators. There were people then that understood that people were created equal.
That's right.
Oh, that was the civil rights movement. Getting in gear. There was standard. It's called Amistad. Now they changed the end into the movie because those slaves that ended up getting free, they became missionaries. Those slaves couldn't even read, but they could see the pictures that was in the Bible.
That's right.
And I remember one of the most moving parts in that story to me is where one of the slaves looks and they see Jesus suffering. And he says, this man understands what we're going through.
That's right. That's right. Yep.
One of the arguments we're getting, though, is coming from the pro-life movement. And it's coming from people that we love. Even clergy and even bishops at times. And they are not in favor of this person. And they're saying it, and you got to understand, they're not our enemies. They're really not our enemies. They are just as pro-life as we are, except they have a concern that, well, if this thing passes, all that's going to happen is the Supreme Court's going to overturn the states, and then they're going to really galvanize Roe v. Wade. Then we really can't change it. Let me be gut level honest with y'all. If not now, when?
Come on. Come on.
This is what the civil rights movement has always said. To all of the civil rights leaders, I don't care whether Martin Luther King, I don't care if you talk about Malcolm X, I don't care whoever you may be talking about. All throughout the ages, they would say to the blacks, well, just give us time. Just that, and every one of the key leaders would say, if not now, when?
That's right.
And I'm going to be honest with you. Right now, the Supreme Court is in a better position than it's ever was. Because right now, the current administration have put nobody in there. If we God by time, do you know what kind of person will end up in there we keep waiting along? It's not going to get better, y'all.
That's right.
It's not going to get better. Now, maybe there could be some changes coming up in a couple of years, but we've already been down that road, as I said once before. And we found out with the Casey decision, I remember Joe Tucker, law professor, the one who worked with the American Center for Law and Justice, the one who helped us win a lot of cases with Jay Sekulow, or 1 minute left, who helped us win cases with Jay Sekulow. I remember what Joe said to him. He said, Brother Johnny, do you realize the Casey decision says to the states, yes, you can take command of the situation. It was saying to the states, yes, you can regulate it. Yes, you can stop it. He said, if one state, Brother Johnny, if one state had something on their books that no abortion was ever allowed anywhere in that state would have been upheld by the Casey decision. He said, you guys are behind now, and now you got to wait. And I tell you, people waited too late. We had states that were willing to do it, and there was people that were saying, no, it's too early. The court going to overturn it. You don't know what the court is going to do. I am saying to people right now, the personhood movement is right, and we need to move it along. And people may say, well, we don't want to have states right, but if the state is right, let the state be right. Let the states recognize the rights that is already there. We can do it. Ain't no need of waiting now.
Amen.
I tell you, Massachusetts done proved that. Folks, we are on the winning side. We can pull it off. Don't give up. Don't give in. Don't stop. Not later, but right now. We don't have to wait. We got to be like these young folks. Child, we don't want them to get gray hair. It's time to stand with these young folks. Let's get this thing on. Let's run the race.